Sonic and the Tales of Deception, Story 3. It starts with Tails working in the lab with Amy and Knuckles' help. I don't think that's ever happened before. He's building a big vehicle, but no one knows what it's going to do. And the narration says that building something without knowing what it'll be is normal for him. So he doesn't go by blueprints for every aspect from the start like real engineers. It's kind of hard to believe. I'd expect Eggman to be the one who builds in such an impulsive way. I thought Tails was cautious. What if you try to add something at the last minute when it's too late, and so it can't actually work? If Tails was the type to make something he has literally no reason to think that he or his friends would need to use, why is he working on this and not the cure for cancer? Then a hedgehog looking like an older version of Sonic walks into the lab saying he's Sonic from the future, just like a story in Fleetway. Why is Knuckles tensing at him? If he doesn't know he's Sonic, he should just be assuming he's trying to get the heroes' help, not assume he's evil. I hope Knuckles' contribution to the story makes it interesting that they're doing the same thing again, instead of him just being there and talking like everyone else does. Somehow Tails doesn't believe him that he's future Sonic because he thinks time travel's impossible in a series with Silver the Hedgehog in it. Okay, why the hell didn't the writers see Silver in all the character info he would have been given by Sega? Silver would have a bio too. Why would he have forgotten Silver? Why won't Silver be mentioned? Why won't Sega tell him Silver exists, so don't write this? So this is either an alternate universe, or takes place before he met Silver in canon. Tails asks how he got here. Why wouldn't he just assume he got here the same way anybody would get here? When Sonic himself shows up, Future Sonic says Tails built a time machine for him, without mentioning the time stones. Seriously, when Little Planet keeps showing up to the point that people thought there was a second moon in Advance 3 in a Riders game, when the fact that it isn't there most of the time means that it can't be a moon. Why would Tails ever build a time machine when he could just have Sonic get the time stones? Since it's called Tales of Deception, I'm wondering if this is gonna rip off SDC to the fullest by having the so-called future Sonic be a fraud who's actually a clone Eggman made that aged fast. It certainly seems to be likely because he says 2 days from now, Sonic beats Eggman for good. I like that he says Team Sonic here, actually acknowledging that Sonic's friends make up a group of people who fight Eggman, no different than the Freedom Fighters. That has to be why the Sega Japan purists overreact to team names. Sure, Team Sonic wasn't ever said verbally in the games. If anything, it'd make more sense for the name to be Sonic Heroes, because Sonic says, "We're Sonic Heroes." That doesn't mean no one used Team Sonic as a name in universe when there's no proof they wouldn't. Because Sonic is already the type of guy who would be arrogant enough to call his friends Sonic Heroes. And just because something never happened on screen doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We know the characters go to the bathroom. The future Sonic gets me suspicious again by saying that he can't tell the heroes how they beat Eggman for good with a lame excuse that it'd somehow make the universe implode. And nobody mentioned Silver or Sonic and how his interference did nothing wrong. The heroes think they need him to help them prepare for a plan that they would have done themselves just fine. And they're not questioning that now he's actually fine with telling them this, even though he just said it'd make the universe implode. Nobody's confused about that? The narration says that Sonic's friends betrayed him, all because they walked off with him. I'm certainly not used to Sonic acknowledging that any of his friends betrayed him, when he never actually did that in anything. The narration says Sonic was sure that this guy's an imposter. Fleetway had Sonic be more in character then. I've seen it be said that Sonic would be honest if he was suspicious of someone no matter how obviously stupid that would be of him in context to let on these suspicious to the enemy, just because he's honest in the games in different contexts. When Fleetway did this idea, Sonic immediately accused him of being an imposter and repeatedly refused to believe he was really him. Here, Sonic's smart enough to not let on in front of an enemy that he arbitrarily doesn't believe he's seeing his future self. Despite the fact that he went through Sonic's CD. Well, he did in SCC, but they didn't in this alternate universe since time travel's impossible. He just met Amy a different way. Tails wonders how flying cars would maintain sufficient speed to stay in the air but not be dangerously fast. In a world where hover technology must exist due to the Eggmobile and its hovercraft from Rush Adventure. So Sonic Riders Zero Gravity never happened in this universe, which has flying cars be commonplace. Sega doesn't give a shit about continuity. Tails knows how to fly a plane. He knows planes exist, so why is he questioning this about flying cars? Why did Sonic wait until now to tell future Sonic to his face that he doesn't believe him? And he doesn't even wait for his friends to be in a different room where they'd be safe first. He challenges them to a race to prove he's a liar, and the nervousness should have given him away to everyone. Because of course he wasn't always planning to say he's faster than him if he was nervous at first. No one notices future Sonic put a small chip on Sonic's shoe. Sure. Nobody was supervising him. Sonic was suspicious of him, but he wasn't supervising him. So why was he even nervous in the first place, if he always had this solution? This was always part of his plan. At this point I wish the story just skipped to the end of the race instead of being so much padding. Future Sonic used the wristband switch to outrun Sonic. It didn't need that many words to tell me that when I already gave away he'd win the race from that one sentence. And I already saw Sonic race what looked like a fast hedgehog in SDC. But I can't help but think it's pretty cool to see someone who looks like Sonic using a gadget, especially one that's on his wrist. It just reminds me of a scrambled hedgehog. Once again, Amy doesn't take Sonic's word for it. Just like when SCC did this. Only this time, these writers had to have read what the characters are like according to Sega, because it's their first time. It's not like it's been so long that they would have forgotten. Sonic watches his friends leave, and then his shoes force him to run. So now it's just like that Sonic X episode. Future Sonic says about Tails' tank that he needs to be shown how the tank works. Tails is confused that he doesn't know how it works when he supposedly led them into battle in it. To be fair, he really would have forgotten how to use it in all that time, even if he wasn't a lying clone or robot. It would have been impressive if he was a clone, so he couldn't be. And why isn't Tails assuming that when he says he needs to be shown how it works, he means literally how does it work, and not how do you use it? Because that's what I thought he meant, and that would be out of character for Sonic. Knuckles tells Tails he did a good job with the tank. Doesn't he mean we, since they all helped? Future Sonic leaves to talk to a holographic image of Eggman about the fact that the heroes believe him, when Eggman didn't need that. Eggman calls him a robot. So it's right to start doubting how awesome this could be. Even though someone 50 years ago was able to make an organic being perfectly fine, Eggman can't possibly be better at inventing than someone 50 years out of date. Or the writer was just not giving Eggman enough credit. It just seems more likely that it's the Sega forbidding Surgeon Kit from being literally made by Starline all over again. Why does Sega view Gerald like that? I never saw the point of Gerald as he's better than Eggman. I do like that Eggman called him his greatest creation yet. It's a lot more realistic than him thinking Metal Sonic is better than him. With someone as lifelike as him, of course he would think he's better than Metal Sonic. Predictably, Tails witnessed this, making an idiot out of this robot for being dumb enough to talk to Eggman when he didn't actually have to. And this reminded me of when Tails discovered Metamorphia was pretending to be a long-lost brother of Sonic the exact same way. Just like then, Tails is made a wimp by not being allowed to warn his friends. Some ropes get blasted at him from under the robot's arm and he's trapped in the closet. So what was the point of having Tails find out? I said this about a Sad EM episode too. After hours, the speed ship overloads so Sonic isn't stuck running anymore. Well, that's easier to understand than how Sonic X had to resolve it and why it happened to Sonic. But why would it overload? Why would it not have been overloaded right away then? Sonic finds Tails, who wastes his time telling him stuff he already suspected or knows. Knuckles and Amy go up to them and get told what happened. Sonic says there's no time for Knuckles to get to the imposter before he destroys the town for no reason, and says he's gotta stop the robot himself. So that's smart. There's a bunch of boring, worthless narration treating us like goldfish, and then the robot sees a blip on the external sensor Eggman thought to give him, which tells him that Sonic's going up to him from behind. Not that it really matters functionally. Sonic still jumps into the tank and bites him like a normal person would. The robot trips over a large bolt on top of the tank and lands on the ground in front of it, and gets crushed by the tank instead of beaten by Sonic. At least that felt new. Well, maybe this happened in AO with CH before, because I know Sonic used the tank at one point in that. This was an anticlimactic lame way of him losing, when Sonic was already planning to throw him off the tank, and actually earn his victory as the cool protagonist of the series. Tails starts dismantling the tank with Knuckles' help because he doesn't want Eggman to steal it now that he knows about it. I guess the heroes don't know where Eggman lives, or he lives so far away that they'd have to regularly ditch the tank to sleep on its way to his house. Otherwise, it could indeed be used for what they were lied to about. But I feel sorry for Tails having to dismantle something he worked so hard on building in the first place. I'm glad the story had Amy say sorry to Sonic for doubting him. That doesn't justify writing it. Why even have Amy here if she's not going to be a fangirl who has total faith in him? The story once again had a supposed future Sonic lure the heroes into a trap for Eggman, except the writer underestimated Eggman so much that it's just a robot instead of a clone. And also has Sonic get made to run uncontrollably once again. But the heroes don't get to earn him being back to normal this time. Instead, Eggman's own technology is unreliable enough to overload doing the thing it was designed for. At least it was new what the robot told him about the future. And he made Eggman look clever by having a way to get Sonic out of the way. It's the same problem that Archie Sonic had when it made lifelike robots, though. Why doesn't Eggman just use this guy to ruin Sonic's reputation instead of giving him an eye patch, making him not look exactly like Sonic? The story by Jake Black was kind of boring because, intentionally or not, it came off as an adaptation of two earlier stories. Granted, it does a better job than both of them. But I'd much rather have an original story than an adaptation. It makes sense what happened to the imposter, and I'm not made to sympathize with him. And I'm not frustrated by the heroes failing to make Sonic stop running. Still, it bored me to see these premises be done again with almost nothing new. And the pacing was too slow considering that. Sonic would have gotten sent out of the way because he had no reason to believe this couldn't be a future Sonic. In a world full of magic and advanced technology, let alone a world with silver. So he wouldn't have challenged them to a race. Tails is just here to get tricked and tied up. Amy's not a fangirl, so she's unrecognizable. And I don't know what Knuckles is doing here, so he's not appreciated. He never, does anything with super strength. He barely ever does anything that only Knuckles could do. What's the point of having him in these novels? So the characters sucked too. Nearly everything did, so I doubt the story would be good even to newcomers. Sometimes the story had too many words dedicated to describing something so bland or derivative, like a race that it already told me the outcome of. It was less interesting than it could have been if I only ever knew this. It would have been better if I didn't read the comics first. But it still had enough wrong within the other areas that it might have been annoying anyways.